in an earlier hour before this phone call with the president, and you and I discussed this regime. You say that there's a faction, perhaps a more moderate versus a more radical wing of this regime. We don't know which one is in charge. Maybe you do. Maybe you can let us know. But if the more radical wing is in charge, per discussion earlier, then that means they're crazy. And that means that this letter and this escalation may not have the results that we want because they don't care. They're just like, fine, let it all go. This is existential. If, we're going to lose, so let's all just die and go to heaven, I guess, or hell. So did you discuss that with the president in terms of the mental state and the outcomes that the mullahs and the radical wing want?
Yes, and I can tell you, having talked to the president multiple times throughout this war and prior to this conflict, the president understands exactly who he's dealing with here. These are not traditional negotiators on the other side of the table. This is not a traditional regime. Even on our call today, President Trump brought up the protesters who were slaughtered in the streets of their country earlier this year. And the president multiple times said he would be there for them. And he targeted, actually, during Operation Epic Fury, many of the besieged force commanders and those responsible for the crackdown against Iranian demonstrators who were peacefully protesting in the streets of their country. But again, I think the fact the president continues to bring this up, he understands two things. He understands the Iranian population, more than 90 million people, and many of them are quietly supporting what President Trump is doing, pressuring a repressive regime that spent 47 years cracking down on their own people. But he also understands the negotiators, and he understands the break in who's actually calling the shots here. And it's a great question because even the Iranians are not clear on who is calling the shots. And while you have this divide between the hardliners and the more moderates, even the Iranians can't agree on their own position. We heard Iran's foreign minister late last week saying the Strait of Hormuz is open, and then IRGC commanders saying it's closed, and then yesterday firing on these vessels trying to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. And again, this speaks to the successful U.S. strikes against the regime and the command structure of the IRGC. But as it relates to who is at the negotiating table now, the takeaways that I had from this 20-minute call with President Trump were quite clear. It doesn't matter to President Trump who is calling the shots in Iran right now. What matters is that they signed this agreement. And the president said if they do not sign the agreement, he is going to target Iranian power plants and bridges. He is going to increase the strikes against the IRGC and go after the core that remains within Iran. Because he told me this is a very simple agreement. It can be done in 10 minutes. They know what is on the table. All they have to do is sign the dotted line. And so far, they've been unwilling to do so. And that is why President Trump told me that on Tuesday, U.S. Special Envoys Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are headed back to the Middle East to try and get this deal across the finish line. And remember what we are looking at here. Now we understand. After this conversation with President Trump, I can tell you very clearly, we are looking at option A or option B. Option A is that the Iranians come to the table on Tuesday and they sign a good faith agreement that never allows them to have a nuclear weapon, that makes sure they give up their enriched uranium, and ensures that they open the Strait of Hormuz. Option B is that their power plants and bridges are going to be destroyed by the U.S. military, the strongest military in the world. And so they have a decision to make. And the president was very clear just before we got off the call. He told me Iran has a decision to make. And the decision is either going to be an off-ramp that saves the lives of the leadership and the infrastructure of the country, or the alternative. And the president told me he is prepared for both options. And again, he is sending his negotiating team for one final effort to try and get this deal across the finish line. But the president was very clear. He told me if they do not sign this deal, the whole country is going to get blown up.
Trey, it's Lucas. Great reporting. Vice President Vance led the negotiations last weekend in Islamabad. He is not going on this trip to Islamabad. Why do you think that is?
It's a great point, and I do want to just read something to you right here. As we are talking, the president has now posted on Truth Social about exactly what he told me during that conversation. He says, in part, Iran decided to fire bullets yesterday in the Strait of Hormuz, a total violation of our ceasefire agreement. Many of them were aimed at a French ship and a freighter from the United Kingdom. The president goes on to say, that wasn't nice, was it? My representatives are going to Islamabad, Pakistan, confirming what he told me on the phone earlier. They will be there tomorrow evening for negotiations. Iran recently announced that they were closing the strait, which is strange because our blockade has already closed it. The president goes on to say in his post, they're helping us without knowing. And they are the ones that lose with the closed passage, $500 million a day. Now, it's a very long post on True Social, and we'll pull it up here, but the president later says, no more Mr. Nice Guy. They will come down fast. He's talking about the bridges and power plants. And again, that is what I gathered from my conversation with the president, that he is not playing games here. He is not bluffing. He is going to hammer the Iranian regime if they do not sign on the dotted line. The choice is theirs in the days ahead.
Can you respond to, I know the Truth Social came out and we didn't get an answer to the question of why you think J.D. Vance is not included in this negotiation team?
The short answer is we understand that the vice president is still directly involved in these conversations and consultations. The president just yesterday at the White House held a situational assessment in the Situation Room, gathering top cabinet officials, whether it was a Joint Chiefs Chairman, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, the vice president, and others. And we understand that U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff was involved as well in that conversation. And so this is a full court press by the Trump administration. A variety of officials are involved at many different levels. The United States is preparing not just on the diplomatic front, but also on the military front. And as the president has made clear on True Social and in our call earlier today, he is prepared for a variety of outcomes. But we are looking at two outcomes here, either a diplomatic solution or military action.
Big decision. Trey Inks,
Great stuff,
great
Trey.
reporting out of Tel
Thank you,
Aviv.
Trey.
Trey.
able to fry that repeater by overloading the power supply. That'll cut the range of that sun significantly. Keep going. You should be coming up on a monorail station soon. The control room will be overlooking it. Looks like you're right by that muster station. The control room is just on the other side of the aviary. Successfully played. CP village high victims to control room. Guess they weren't taking any chances. But you're inside the barricades. You should be able to make it the rest of the way on foot. Just making sure they're gonna try to hurt her baby. That's what mothers do.
Mobilization on two fronts. You ready for a fight?
That nigga black, that's a